At 04:15 hours on August 9, 2025, a single Ukrainian drone flies through Ukrainian airspace on a one-way mission to Russia's largest military drone factory. This facility produces 500 drones per month that devastate Ukrainian cities. In 10 hours, the single Ukrainian drone will be overtopped to change all of that. But first, it has to survive the next 30 seconds. The drone passes a Ukrainian air defense position. No IFF transponder, no data link, no identification. Just steady flight that looks exactly like a Russian attack. The Ukrainian Gepard's radar locks on immediately. Twin 35mm cannons swiveling to track. Fire control computer calculating the intercept solution. 8 kilometers now. The operator stares at his scope. The contact matches a Bayraktar TB2 profile. Russians had captured TB2s before and turned them against Ukrainian forces. One struck near Bakhmut using this exact approach profile. His finger hovers over the fire button. At this range, his tungsten rounds would shred any drone in seconds. Then he remembers the midnight briefing. From 0420 to 0430 hours, do not engage aerial targets at 150 meters altitude, plus or minus 5 at 150 kilometers per hour, plus or minus 10 through these exact coordinates. No explanation given, no context provided. His watch shows 0419, 1 minute until the window opens, 4 kilometers in closing. The fire control shows 94% hit probability, every instinct screaming to engage. The system tracking it was a Ukrainian Gepard SPAG, self-propelled anti-aircraft gun. Those twin 35mm Oerlikon autocannons could pump out 1,100 rounds per minute, each shell containing 152 tungsten sub-projectiles. The ammunition detonates at a predetermined distance, creating a lethal cloud precisely where the target would be. No drone could survive flying through that tungsten storm. 8 kilometers now. The fire control computer was already calculating the position, but something nagged at the operator. Ukrainian drones launched at night for dawn strikes, not at 0415. They flew high to avoid friendly fire, not at 150 meters where every gun could reach them. 7 kilometers. The radar painted it clearly. 12-meter wingspan, twin boom configuration. Definitely a Bayraktar, or at least what he thought was a Bayraktar. Russians had captured TB2s before and turned them against Ukrainian forces. One had struck near Bakhmut last month using Russian flight patterns, but this one maintained Ukrainian approach protocols while flying toward Russian territory. 6 kilometers out now, the drone maintained course like it was on rails. No evasive movers like reconnaissance drones performed. No altitude variation to avoid detection. No electromagnetic emissions at all. At 150 meters, every Russian position would see it once it crossed the lines. This was an exposure profile that made no tactical sense, unless the drone didn't plan to return. 5 kilometers, 0420 hours, the window was active. The operator's hands tensed the controls. If this was a captured Russian TB2, he had seconds to stop it. If this was a Ukrainian mission, he'd ruin the mission it was on. The fire control computer showed 94% hit probability. 4 kilometers, optimal range in 5 seconds. Every instinct screaming to engage, but those parameters matched perfectly. Exactly 100 meters, exactly 150 kilometers per hour, exactly through the specified corridor. Through his optics, he could now see the drone directly. This wasn't a TB2, but an AN-196 Liutyi drone. This could mean only one thing. The Liutyi passed overhead at 0426, and the operator watched it vanish. Russian territory now lay ahead, and morning reports would soon start cascading through their command structure about a drone that couldn't be stopped. By 0630 hours, Sector Command in Bryansk had received 3 anomaly reports. Observation posts along the border reported the same contact. Slow-moving drone, 50 meters altitude, heading 087 degrees. Not responding to electronic challenges. Not deviating from course. The tactical display showed a straight line toward Nizhny Novgorod, and from there, the projection continued directly to Alabuga. The duty officer ordered immediate deployment of the Pol-21 to grid reference 445892. The system you see here is the Pol-21 GPS jammer, essentially a mobile broadcasting tower mounted on a military truck. That 15-meter antenna mast radiates 1,000 watts of electronic noise on both GPS frequencies. It creates a 20-kilometer bubble where satellite navigation ceases to exist. The signal strength hits drones at -90 dBm, while real GPS whispers at -130 dBm. That's 10,000 times stronger, like trying to hear a whisper next to a jet engine. The AN-196 entered the jamming code at 0634. The operator watched his scope, counting down the expected sequence. 3 seconds for jamming to overwhelm the receiver, 5 seconds for the drone to recognize signal loss, 10 seconds to begin lost link protocol, usually circling or returning home. At 8 seconds, the drone wavered, a tiny wobble as the INS tried compensating for lost GPS. At 10 seconds, it should have begun to turn. It didn't turn. It steadied and continued east. The operator switched to spoofing mode. Now the Pole 21 wasn't just jamming. It was broadcasting false satellite signals that would convince any GPS receiver it was 500 kilometers from the actual position. The drone would start correcting toward this phantom location, gradually flying off course until fuel exhaustion. The Liutyi ignored the false signals completely. Analysis of its flight path revealed something sophisticated. The drone wasn't simply following the railway, too predictable, too easy to ambush. Instead, it was using multiple terrain references. Follow the M3 highway for 10 kilometers, at the distinctive S-curve near Seltso. Adjust heading 15 degrees north. Track power lines until they intersect the river. Cross at the 3-span bridge, not the 2-span. Each waypoint chosen for uniqueness, impossible to confuse. Visual navigation meant complete autonomy, no GPS to jam, no control to override. The Russians had spent $8 million per Pole 21 unit, thousands of engineering hours perfecting GPS denial. Ukraine had defeated it by teaching the drone to look where it was going. The alert went to Nizhny Novgorod's S-400 battery. Drone inbound, ETA 0945, preliminary warning to Alabuga. Possible drone incursion, confidence moderate, arrival estimated at 1150 hours. By 0800, Russian electronic warfare operators were tracking something that shouldn't exist. A drone navigating precisely through GPS darkness, following highways, rivers, and power lines like a tourist with a perfect map. Each checkpoint bringing it closer to Alabuga, where 5,500 Shahed drones waited in warehouses before their deployment over Ukrainian skies. At 0945 hours, the S-400 battery near Nizhny Novgorod had been tracking anomaly reports for 3 hours. Bryansk had lost a GPS immune drone heading their way. Now their radar would find it. The system you see here is the 92N6E Gravestone radar, the S-400's eyes. Those panels contain 10,000 transmit-receive modules pumping out 100 kilowatts of focused energy in the S-band 2 to 4 gigahertz. Against a fighter-sized target with 3 square meter radar cross-section, detection range reaches 250 kilometers, but radar physics are brutal to small targets. The AN-196 presents only 0.5 square meters, 6 times smaller than a fighter. Detection range doesn't drop linearly. It follows the fourth root of the radar cross-section ratio. That mathematics collapses detection from 250 kilometers to just 107. Worse, the drone was flying at 50 meters altitude, using Earth's curvature as a shield. At 0945, the drone climbed to 200 meters to clear terrain. The radar locked on immediately. Slow-moving UAV bearing 262, range 89 kilometers. The classification was unmistakable: 12-meter wingspan, twin boom configuration, possible TB2 Bayraktar. But the location was impossible. Turkish drones had a 300-kilometer range. This contact was 900 kilometers from Ukraine. The timing couldn't be worse. Shift change at 1000 hours. The overnight crew had 13 minutes left, already mentally checking out. The day crew couldn't be fully oriented until 10:15. This was the gap nobody talked about. 15 minutes when nobody wanted to make critical decisions. The track showed a perfect straight line toward Alabuga, not the wandering pattern of reconnaissance, not the searching behavior of surveillance. This was arrow-straight navigation to a specific target. Here's where the S-400 Panzer relationship becomes critical. The S-400 handles long-range threats with its 48 N6 DM missiles. $2 million each, designed for high-value targets. The Panzer provides close-in protection with its 30mm autocannons and smaller missiles. They're networked together, sharing radar data, creating overlapping fields of fire. But the system has a geometric flaw. The Panzer's guns can't depress below -5 degrees. At 4 kilometers range and 50 meters altitude, the angle needed is -7 degrees. The drone was literally flying under the guns. The expensive missiles were doctrinally reserved for larger threats. The cheap autocannons couldn't reach it. The contact descended back to 50 meters, vanishing into the ground clutter. Ground clutter is basically radar's blind spot. All the reflections bouncing off trees, buildings, hills, and terrain that create noise on the screen. The radar operators see a mess of static where the Earth meets the sky, and the drone vanishes into that chaos like a needle in a haystack. The overnight supervisor made his log entry. Possible UAV contact, bearing 087, assessed as reconnaissance. Lost in ground clutter, no action taken. By 10:15, when the day shift finally reviewed the logs, the Liutyi was 40 kilometers past their position. The new operator checked his scope. Nothing there. Morning thermals often cause false returns. He dismissed it. The warning to Alabuga was updated. Confirmed drone approach, high confidence, arrival estimated 1150 hours. Multiple systems had failed to engage. The counter-drone operators at Alabuga began preparing their systems. They had purpose-built counter-drone systems that would succeed where traditional air defense had failed. But they weren't counting on something unique like the Ukrainians had done. At 11:47 hours, Alabuga's counter-drone station had been tracking the inbound threat for hours. Bryansk reported GPS jamming failure at 0630. Nizhny Novgorod logged radar contact at 0945. Now it was here, 8 kilometers out, climbing through 250 meters, flying straight at them in broad daylight. The system you see here is the Repellent 1, purpose-built to stop drones. That directional antenna focuses 500 watts into a 30-degree cone, overwhelming any drone receiver within 2.5 kilometers. The system's computer contains 10,000 command protocols. Every frequency, every standard, every override command ever used by drones. Turkish military frequencies, NATO standards, shared Ukrainian protocols, even Chinese commercial codes. The operator activated the system. 500 watts of electromagnetic energy slammed into the drone, cycling through all 10,000 commands in 4 seconds. Return to home. Land immediately. Enter hover mode. Switch to manual. Emergency stop. Every possible override transmitted in every possible format. The AN-196 flew on unchanged, straight, level, mechanical. Frequency hopping attack came next. The system began hitting specific frequencies at microsecond intervals, trying to catch the drone between hops. Even encrypted military systems could glitch if you hit the right frequency at the right microsecond. This had worked on drones before that thought they were jamming resistant. No response. 5 kilometers and closing. The SERP VS-5 GPS spoofer joined the assault, broadcasting false satellite signals at -100 dBm, 1,000 times stronger than real GPS, creating a phantom position at 500 kilometers away, then gradually walking it back to trick the drone into turning. This had never failed against GPS-guided systems. The drone maintained its course, 3 kilometers. Analysis of its approach path revealed the horrifying truth. The drone was following visual landmarks: main road to the water tower, adjust at the railway junction, correct at the river bend. Pure optical navigation comparing terrain to stored imagery. But that wasn't the worst part. Inside the drone, there was no sensor ball, removed. No satellite communication dome, gone. No antenna arrays, cut off. Extra fuel tanks welded where equipment should be. The control receivers weren't just disabled, they'd been physically removed. Antenna cables cut and capped, radio modules uninstalled. There was no RF pathway into the flight computer. They were trying to hack a drone that had no connection to hack. All stations switched to barrage jamming. 14 jammers opened simultaneously, creating an electromagnetic storm from 100 megahertz to 6 gigahertz, 50 watts per megahertz of pure noise that should crash any processor through induced currents alone. The drone's computers, wrapped in aluminum Faraday cages, didn't register the interference. Complete electromagnetic shielding meant the processors kept running. Waypoint 1146 achieved. Proceed to waypoint 1147. Initiate terminal dive. At 11:52, high noon, the AN-196 punched through the anti-drone mesh at 180 kilometers per hour. The steel grid, designed for 5-kilogram quadcopters, sheared instantly against 700 kilograms of aircraft. The thermite warhead penetrated the warehouse roof. The chemistry was instant. Iron oxide plus aluminum equals iron plus aluminum oxide plus 2,500 degrees Celsius. Molten metal streamed into stored Shaheds. The first fuel tank ruptured in 0.3 of a second. Fuel vapor expansion ratio of 8,000 to 1 created massive overpressure. 2 seconds, 50 drones exploding in sequence. 8 seconds, roof structure failing from 3 atmospheres overpressure. 15 seconds, north wall blown outward. 30 seconds, all 5,500 Shaheds consumed. The fireball climbed to 800 meters. Overpressure shattered windows 5 kilometers away. 6 months of production, $500 million of Iranian technology vaporized in under a minute. One long-range drone had proven that in the age of autonomous warfare, all the sophisticated defenses were just expensive systems shouting at a drone that couldn't hear them. Bye for now.